Hello, I'm Rick Lewis with Feed on Hoop Report. On today's Coach's Corner, I have Adam Muse from Reagan High School. Welcome, Coach.
Thanks, Coach, for having me.
Well, with a last name like Muse, I guess it's only natural that you become a high school basketball coach. Your dad has been a very successful coach at Mount Tabor. Your grandfather's also been a very successful coach. So talk a little bit about your dad and your grandfather.
Well, it's very interesting being around our family. People from the outside, they just see us as a basketball family, but what people don't see is what they do outside of basketball.
Right.
And great fathers, great grandfathers, and they've always taught me how to treat people the right way. And I've been extremely blessed to be born into this family, and I definitely embrace it and know that there's some weight that goes along with being in the family. So.
Well, your dad, Andy, has coached at Mount Tabor for 26 years, and your grandfather, Tom, he coached for 36 years and has been your dad's assistant coach at Mount Tabor. And then, of course, your uncle, Mike Muse, has also coached at both the high school and the collegiate level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny because, we all kind of got the same story. We all grew up in the gym. My dad grew up in Parkland's gym. I grew up in Mount Tabor's gym. And there hasn't been a day that has gone by that basketball hasn't been a topic within our household. And it's just I'm very fortunate to be able to have those mentors in my life, because a lot of people, they don't get that opportunity to have somebody who's been through the fire and knows how to go through different situations as a coach. And I'm very lucky to have three of them in my life. A lot of people don't have that as blood. So it's definitely a blessing to have.
Well, in 2010, you graduated from North Forsyth. You didn't take the same trek as your brothers did and played for your dad. So with you playing at North Forsyth, you were sort of a rival in the conference with Mount Tabor.
Yeah.
What was it like playing against your dad?
It was tough. I mean, especially growing up in his gym and being around his players. Like in the off season, we'd always play against each other and with his guys, and it was definitely tough because everybody's always trying to hype up the game when we play, and your friends are talking to you, your people at church are talking to you, who's going to win the game, and a lot of people focus on that instead of North Forsyth versus Mount Tabor. And at that point when we played, it was just like whoever's on your team, you're trying to get with those guys, and you're trying to beat the other guy. And it was tough the first year that I played him. He won the state championship. They only lost one game that year. They had C.J. Harris, Mike Grace, Josh Hicks. They all went D1. And they were really good. So it was tough competition. But, I mean, we were right there in the game. We had some great players as well. And Sean Vestal's a great coach. He really did a good job with our teams when I was there. But it was always fun just to compete against my dad, because that's something I've always done my whole life. So.
Well, you said your dad won a state championship. He won the state championship in 2009. The next season, it was 2010, and you were graduating, but that particular year, I think you said North Forsyth had the upper hand on Mount Tabor. You guys went 2-1 against them. So did y'all have any nice little discussions going back and forth on that situation?
Yeah, well, it's funny. So that was our first game of the year. We played Mount Tabor the first game, and that gave me motivation throughout the whole summer, him winning a state championship. And you always want to beat the guys who won it last. They're always going to have a target on their back. So we had some really good guys on our team: Gary Harrison, Alan Hauser, Jamel Summers. We had a really stacked team, and he had a lot coming back, even though he missed those three guys that were the main piece of his championship team. But it's funny, the first play of the game, the first time we get the ball, I come down, I shoot a three, hit it, point at my dad, and he just starts smiling and laughing. So that's one of my favorite memories of my playing career. And it was just good, competitive fun. And, after the first game, I don't say too much because I know we got to play them again. But after the second game, when we beat them at our place, I threw a little jabs here and there, but we ended up playing them in the Frank Spencer, and that kind of caught up with me.
So you didn't rub it in too much when you went home at night when you beat them the first 2 times, did you?
No, the second time I started to because I didn't know we were going to play them again. So, but it's all fun. We pick at each other all the time at home and at family events. So,
well, let me ask you this, Adam. Was there a lot of pressure to play for your dad? I mean, you had a unique situation where you decided to go play at North Forsyth. Was there a lot of pressure in that regard?
At first, I wanted to go play for my dad. I think I went to North Forsyth because the people that I went to school with
Right.
before high school, and that was one of the main things. And it was just a good opportunity. Well, first of all, my uncle was supposed to be at North Forsyth. I was supposed to play for him, and then he took the job at Wake Forest my freshman year. So, but we were close friends with Coach Vestal throughout that whole time. He was Mike's longtime assistant, so I knew I was in good hands going to play for him.
Yeah, it must have been tough though. You had a decision, like for example, you grew up with your friends in middle school and you want to go play with them in high school, but at the same time, your dad's over there coaching at Mount Tabor. So that had to have been a very difficult situation for you.
Yeah, I mean, the guys that were at Mount Tabor at the time, I also grew up with. We were always in the gym at 5, 6, 7 with Mike Grace and Chad and Josh Hicks, and I definitely had the interest of going and playing with them, but it was just a better opportunity for me to kind of set my own path.
Right.
In North Forsyth. So.
Well, since, like I said, you were born into the Muse family, so it was predetermined that you were going to be a high school coach. But after you graduated from North Forsyth, you went to Appalachian State, and you was the team manager for 4 years. And I think you were telling me at that point in time, they didn't have the Dobo and the video coordinator, so you got to do a lot of that. So you learned a lot those 4 years you were at Appalachian State.
Right. Well, I was very fortunate to be in that situation. Like most people who are unsigned going into college, you want to try to walk on. So that was my first attempt to do that. But when I got there was 18 people on the roster. So I just said, might as well learn the game and be around it. And it was tough at first because you're not used to washing people's clothes and doing stuff that people don't want to do. But over time, it was a much more valuable experience for me because I was able to pick the brains of the guys that were on the staff. Coach Capel, he's a really good X's and O's guy. He with him playing at Carolina and being around his dad, who was with the Bobcats for a long time, he really knew what he was doing X's and O's wise. And I was very fortunate to have Coach Gainey and Coach Sampson take me under their wing and pretty much allow me to come in on the scouting process.
Right.
They wouldn't let me do the scout. I'm a manager, but they'd let me come in and they'd say, "Hey, watch these 3 games, write some notes down, let me know what you think." And that gave me a lot of good experience on learning what to look for when to scout. In terms of how to read what ball screen defense they're running, or how do we attack this zone. So, and they just taught me little lessons along the way of like how to run the video system. And
right. What was your most difficult job being a team manager those 4 years?
Um, I wouldn't say anything was difficult. I mean, I when I went into college, I was 170 pounds, and they put me up on the pad against some of the bigs, Michael Obacha, Mike Cabani, and it wasn't fun getting hit by them every day. But some of the from the basketball side, just doing things like planning visits. We had to set up tables and making sure everything was prepared the right way so that we could tell our school on to recruits. And whether that be get a video set up for the recruit coming in so that they could show them. And there were definitely some times where I messed up, and they were gracious to me and showed me how to make things right. But I really learned how to be prepared going into leaving Appalachian State. They really showed me how you gotta have your things in order so that everything's pretty much ready to go when the time comes to whether be on the court, do drills, or have a video ready for recruits, things like that. So it was a very valuable experience.
Do you have anything that's in the back of your mind that you say is the biggest takeaway that you had from that experience at Appalachian State?
I think the biggest thing is doing the best job at the job that you're in.
Right.
A lot of people get so caught up in, I got to get the next job. I got to be the next assistant coach, head coach, whatever it is. That job really humbled me and showed me that the little things matter, and I shouldn't be too big to do any job. And it was just valuable because, I mean, you get to where I'm at now, where I'm a head coach. You see the steps that you got to take to get there, and a lot of people they want to do things that is ahead of them, and that they don't get. They're not too concerned about the things that's necessary at the job that they're doing. So that really helped me learn how to do things the right way.
Yeah, and it's also a very humbling process too, because as a player in high school and even at the collegiate level, there's so many things that you take for granted. And guys like yourself who come in as a team manager and all the things that you have to do for the players, whether it's picking up their water bottles or washing their clothes, that's a very humbling experience. And it helps, in my opinion, helps pave the way to learn those things as a coach, because you can appreciate all the things that the people underneath you do for you as a coach.
Right, exactly. And that's definitely been a huge thing for me as I've kind of climbed the ladder at the high school level. Just being appreciative of the managers that helped me out, the assistant coaches that helped me with film or whatever it might be, doing the jerseys, getting them set up for a game. But it really allows me as a coach to show my players that I'm willing to do anything for them. And I want my players to be able to do the little things on the court. And if I'm not willing to do that, how can I expect them to do the same thing?
Great point. Well, in 2014, you graduated from Appalachian State and you went, I guess, your first year out, you was doing your student teaching at Mount Tabor. So now this gave you the opportunity. Now you have an opportunity. Now I'm going to be able to be assistant coach for my dad and sit with him and also sit with my grandfather, Tom, on the bench. What was that like, and what lessons did you learn from just that 1 year?
It was a really fun year. Just being around them and getting to see your heroes and work with your heroes in action. And we also had Travis Holcomb-Fay, who's at Parkland now, who's a really good coach in our area. So it was fun to be around him too. But the biggest thing I learned is, growing up, you see all the stuff in the locker room and going to the games and stuff like that, but you don't see the stuff that goes on in the school. And, my dad, he's really successful because he makes sure that those guys in his school are on top of things in school, making sure that they're getting their schoolwork done. If they need tutoring, he's on them. If they're acting up, he's making sure that they straighten up pretty quick. But it was very valuable because it was my first time coaching and being on the floor, but they showed me how prepared you got to be going into coaching and knowing what you're talking about. So he might have gave me a few opportunities where he's like, "Hey, go do this drill." If I didn't know the drill, I was in trouble. So just showing how to be prepared and knowing how to do things the right way, and ultimately, he just showed me how to care and love for his players. That's the biggest thing in coaching, I believe, is showing that you have the best interest of your players, and that's something that he's always done, and it's always good to see it firsthand.
Well, the next year you were able to be a grad assistant at UNC Charlotte under Mark Price, and already being in Appalachian State as a team manager, that had to help you as a grad assistant at UNC Charlotte.
Yeah, it was extremely helpful because when I got there, I didn't have to take 2 or 3 months to learn the video system. I was already equipped with it, and I was able to go right into scouting with Coach Gray, knowing that I had the experience that I learned from Sampson and Gainey, that I could just jump right in and say, "Hey, this is what I think about the team. This is how we need to attack things," and that really gave me an edge on how prepared I need to be for whatever task that Coach Price or any of the coaches gave me. And it was just very significant in me excelling at what I did at UNC Charlotte.
Now, who were some of the staff members at Charlotte at that point in time?
It was Mark Price, Chris Ferguson, Andre Gray, Houston Fancher, Tanner Smith, Colby, your son, Pat Corrigan, and Jackson Simmons. So it was a fun staff to be around.
Do you have any good stories on my son Colby while you were there at Charlotte?
I got a lot of stories on Colby, but no, we just our group of guys that we were with. It was just a phenomenal time because guys like Colby, Tanner, Pat, and Jackson, we all had the same dream in mind. That's become good coaches, and it was fun always sitting in the offices, just chopping it up, ideas that we had of how we would run a team and how we can make our team better. And it's funny, we whenever we went on the road, we always played the other team's managers, and we probably had one of the best coaching staff teams in the country. We beat people by 30, 40 points, and there was one day we actually played our walk-ons. Our walk-ons was talking junk to us all throughout the year, so we were like, all right, we'll go out there and show you. And I think we beat them by 50 points. I think we actually kept the score on the scoreboard, and Colby hit like 12 threes that game. So it was fun to go out there and have a good time with those guys. So
isn't that great part, doing a grad assistant or being a team manager, the relationships and bonds you develop with all these people, and then you work with them, and then later on you're out here in the workforce on your own, and you see where everybody is. I mean, that has to be very fun and very rewarding.
Yeah, it's just unbelievable where all the guys are that I've worked with. People are assistants at Marquette, Houston, Kennesaw State, UMBC. It's just all over the country. And, I'm very fortunate to have all those guys where I can just call them up and say, hey, what do you think about this situation?
Right.
How did you handle your culture? How did you deal with this type of discipline? So it's really awesome to have those guys and know that I can trust their opinion because I know that they know what they're doing.
Well, after you spent 2 years as a grad assistant at Charlotte, you finally got your first chance to have a full-time job. In 2017, you became a teacher and assistant coach at East Forsyth, and now you are helping your Uncle Mike at East Forsyth. So now here you are, as assistant coach there. Now here you are again going up against your dad, but this time you're going up as a assistant coach. So what was it like coaching against your dad?
Well, I was very fortunate to work for Mike. He was very gracious enough to give me plenty of opportunities to become a great coach. And it's funny. We get around at Thanksgiving and basketball season's coming around, and everybody starts talking.
Right.
And it's funny. The first year that I was at East, my brothers were actually playing for my dad. So it was me and my uncle versus my dad, my granddad, and the twins. So
Oh, whoa.
it was a family affair, and my brothers are feisty little guys, and they definitely talked some junk going into the season, and so we ended up playing them first in the Frank Spencer, and Dad's got a really good team. He had Isaiah Wilkins, who's now going to be at Wake Forest next year. He had Quest Aldridge, who's at Belmont Abbey. But we had a really good team too. And we played them in the Joel Coliseum, and we ended up beating them the first time. And it was just sweet to take all that junk talk that my brothers have been saying over the course of time, and putting it right back in their face. And kind of like when I played my dad, didn't say a word when I went home, just went to bed, didn't have to say anything because the playing took care of itself.
Right.
Then we ended up playing them 2 more times. We beat them the second time, and then the third time they ended up getting us. So it was definitely a fun experience. And, you got all your friends and family out there coming to the games saying who's going to win, and people hype up the games, and it was definitely hyped up that year because everybody was involved. But a lot of times when it's just us coaching against each other, it comes down to it's whoever you're with against Mount Tabor. So it was definitely a fun experience.
And let me ask you this: was it harder playing against your dad or coaching against him?
Depending on the year. Yeah, my first year playing against him, his team was the best team he's had since he's been coaching. So that was really tough. But I would say coaching against him. Obviously, he's one of the best at what he does, and just to be on the same in the same career path as him, going against him, is definitely tough. Knowing that he's going to have good talent, 1, and 2, he's going to know how to game plan against you.
Now, the first 2 years at East Forsyth, you was an assistant coach. Now, your third year, Mike had an opportunity to go coach at the collegiate level. So you were thrown from the frying pan into the fire. You were named the interim coach. East Forsyth was just coming off a football state championship. And I think you were telling me 8 of the players on the basketball team played on the football team. That must have been a pretty tough situation going into the season.
Yeah, it was tough. And like going into the school year, I didn't know I was going to be a head coach. Mike didn't tell me until October that he's taking the job. So I had a month to get ready for practice. And then when I get to practice, we only have 4 of the guys that were on the varsity team practicing with me. So we get our guys from football on December the 18th, and it's on from there. We didn't really have a preseason. We just kind of started building a plan. It was as it was flying, and it was a good experience, though. I learned a ton from just learning the different things that you have to do as a head coach. It's totally different shoes that you're in.
You were definitely thrown into the fire that year, though.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was tough because, I mean, we started the year out playing Mount Tabor, Winston-Salem Prep, Reynolds, West Stokes, some of the best teams in high school basketball last year. And, I mean, we ended up losing our first 7 games, but at the end of the year, we obviously got better from where we started. And as a coach, that's all you can ask for, even if the results aren't there.
Coach, how difficult was it, the transition from being an assistant coach for 2 years, now you're the head coach?
It was definitely hard. Any coach that has their first head coaching job, they think they're ready, but you're not really prepared until you're in those shoes. It's easy going from the guy that makes suggestions as an assistant to making all the decisions, because all your decisions affect everybody on the team. And the biggest thing that I learned is you got to make sure that your players know that they care for you, or that you care for them. And if you do that, then they'll buy in, and good things will happen from there.
Well, I'm sure during this time frame, your dad was giving you some advice and giving you words of encouragement. What was the biggest thing that he was telling you that you learned that helped you go through the season?
The biggest thing is just you got to make sure that you're staying on track. It's easy to get low on yourself when you're not winning games, but it's like he told me. His first year, he lost his first 8 games as a head coach, and he was in the same boat. He was like, I don't know if I'm fit for this, and he was just like, you just got to stay true to yourself and keep doing the right things, and good things will come. And that's what I did. It was definitely tough with the hand that I was dealt, but I made the best of it, and each day I went in and prepared the way that I would prepare for anybody, and we got better. And at the end of the day, that's what I can hang my hat on.
Adam, you were just named the head coach at Reagan High School. Now you're going to renew the rivalry with your dad because you're going to be playing against him, a couple times a season. Who hates to lose more, you or him?
I mean, it depends on who you ask. If you're asking me, it's going to be me. Ever since I was 5 years old, me and my dad have been competing against each other. I mean, when I was a kid, we bought a Sega, and we'd play video games, and he'd wait till the last second to beat me, and I'd just go ballistic. Whatever we do, whether it's playing pool, playing cards at home, we're trying to beat each other, and we don't like to say that the other guy's got the upper hand.
That's one thing about the Muse family is they're very competitive.
Yeah. I can't tell you the amount of times I've had some anger issues in the house from losing to dad.
Adam, your dad, if you really think about it, he's one of the greatest coaches of all time in the state of North Carolina, and your grandfather has also the same impeccable reputation. What does it mean to you to be the son of Andy Muse and the grandson of Tom Muse?
Well, like I said earlier, I'm very fortunate to be in this family, and a lot of people they're pretty much looking at the basketball side of it, but I see it from a family side, and the way that he's raised me and taught me how to work hard and do things the right way and treat people the right way. That's the biggest thing that I've taken away from being in this family. And there's definitely there definitely comes some pressure with that,
right,
being in the family, because there are high expectations. And I've been able to learn over the past year that and my dad's taught me this throughout my whole career, whether it be playing or coaching, that you can't put your self-worth in what you do. It's who you are and how you treat people. And he's definitely taught me how to put my faith in Christ and know that that's where my identity is. And
Right.
he's definitely, you got the verse in Colossians 3:23, whatever you do it with all your heart as if working for the Lord. And he's always taught me that just to do the best that I can do at whatever I'm doing. And I'm very appreciative of that and him teaching me that along my life.
Last question, we'll close this out. Did you ever think growing up that you would do anything else but coach?
No, I definitely couldn't. Just growing up in the gym, it's always been my dream to be like my dad. And,
Right.
A lot of people don't understand what it's like because they didn't live through it. And I know people have aspirations to be coaches, but when it's been your whole life, it's hard not to stray away onto another path.
Well, Adam, being a Muse has high expectations, but I'm going to say this. I said, you know what? The apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
Yeah.
And I really do believe, without a shadow of a doubt in my heart, that you're going to be just as successful as your dad.
I hope I'm half the man that he is.
You are. The thing about it is, I've watched you. I've known you for a long time, since you were younger, and I've known you at the high school level. I've known you as at the collegiate level as a AD at Charlotte. And the one thing I can always say about you, you're very poised, you're very mature, and you always act in a very professional manner. And you get a lot of that characteristics from your dad. So, but you will make your own path in this business as well. And we want to say from Phenom Hoop Report, thank you for coming on Coach's Corner today. I'm glad people get an opportunity to meet you as a coach and you as a person.
Well, I really appreciate you having me, and we appreciate all that you do for our kids, and you definitely help them get to the next level. And I really appreciate that you don't only just preach basketball, you preach life, and especially the part about knowing that the ball is going to go flat, because that's something that these kids need to learn today. And I appreciate all that you do for our sport.
You're welcome.